So we've got the privilege today of having Jackie Quinlivan here with us at Fire and Safety Australia. She has an incredible and tragic story about her husband Lyndon passing away 7 years ago, but also a story of bravery and resilience in getting through as a mum, as a safety advocate, and starting to share her story with the rest of the community. So it's great to have Jackie with us today and for you to tell your story with us. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Steve. I'm really happy to be here and to share my story.
Well, look, Jackie, thanks so much for coming in and chatting to us today. You and I connected a few months ago after you reached out to me on LinkedIn after the tragic events that your family's gone through several years ago, and given the story what you've gone through yourself, but also I think the messages that you can give to learners, I just thought it would be a great way to connect and to help you to share your story. So thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, look, thank you for having me, Steve. I'm really keen just to help out as much as I can around the awareness space for safety training. So any bit of information that I can help give to yourself, give to learners, it's all going to be an asset.
Yeah, terrific. So as a first question for us today, can you tell us, I mean, you're now on this journey and you're really now a safety advocate. You've got real lived experience from what you've been through, what your family's been through. Can you tell us the background about how you came to now be a safety advocate and how you came to talk about the experiences that your family and you have gone through?
Yeah. So obviously I lost my husband in a workplace incident in 2018. So having gone through that, we had two small children at the time. And at first I was, I was a real recluse and just needed to get my head around what had just happened. And then after around about 12 months, I just thought, enough's enough. I need to get answers. I need to tell my story. I need to help other people so nobody else goes through what we've been through as a family and continue to go through. So this started my journey.
Yeah, so it's very brave of you to talk about the story, and obviously what's an incredible, difficult circumstance, losing a husband in a workplace accident, and obviously the effect it had on you and your kids. So I really appreciate your courage and bravery in talking to people about this. Can you tell us about the details that led to your husband unfortunately passing away in a workplace accident?
So my husband was working at a paper mill. He'd been working there since he was 18, so he was part of the furniture. And on this particular day, it was a scheduled maintenance shut. So long story short, there was a crack in a tank with liquid seen running down the crack, and one gentleman was asked to go up and investigate. Upon climbing up on top of the tank, he instantly became unconscious. And another colleague went up, felt lightheaded. He came down and called man down to the control room where my husband was. My husband was a trained first responder. He ran out and took a contractor with him as well. My husband went up first, was knocked unconscious. The contractor was then knocked unconscious. So you had three unconscious men on top of this tank. It was around about 5 metres high. And it was then that I believe they realised something was seriously wrong, and they then found out that it was hydrogen sulfide. So by the time that they went to get all three men down, obviously, as you probably know, H2S time is of the essence.
Yeah.
And it was time that the boys didn't have. They finally got the men down. So the first employee who went up, he unfortunately died, and then Lyndon, he was put on life support, and as was the contractor. That was around about 2:00 in the afternoon, and around about 5:00 in the morning, the next morning, the doctors came and said that we had to make the decision to turn off his life support. So Lyndon obviously succumbed to his injuries that morning. At the same time, the contractor was just waking up, and so he luckily survived. And yeah, so that's when, the investigation started and whatnot, and then we found out that it was H2S, and going on from there.
A tragic and very difficult experience, for Lyndon, for his colleagues affected directly, probably everyone involved in the organisation, and you and your family, at that time. So in effect, Lyndon, in a lot of ways, was trying to help somebody.
Correct.
That was reported to him, and to try and, save someone's life or help somebody.
Yes.
Probably not realising,
No.
I suppose, that there was a potential hydrogen sulfide leak, and there was a potentially oxygen deficient atmosphere, and what ultimately would be a really difficult and complicated, rescue to get someone out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It was definitely very complex to get them out. The space up the top of the tank where the men were found was not designed for human occupation. However, there was a ladder fixed to the side of the tank, so they then had to work out how to get them down. The ventilation up there wasn't all the best. So they had a few things playing against them.
I mean, confined spaces are such a difficult way to be able to get people out. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the challenges around having an oxygen deficient environment without some sort of gas detection, it's impossible to know what the atmosphere would be.
Correct. And that's one of my questions from the get-go was, why weren't they wearing the appropriate PPE? Whether it be ideally both, the fixed monitors and the personal equipment.
Yeah.
That would have made all the difference. Yeah. It did obviously get implemented, I believe, after the fact, but yes, at this specific time, it would have helped immensely.
Yeah. And so, do you think that Lyndon and his colleagues knew that it was a confined space and the sorts of dangers that were there?
I don't. Yeah. I can't be sure, but I definitely don't. Lyndon, as I said, he was a first responder. He knew what he was doing, and so did the other guys who were affected. I think it was more around the training and supervision and everything else that would have gone a long way.
Okay. And so how did this affect your life and your family's lives? This is obviously such a tragic accident, and would have been really hard pressure on you and your family.
Yes. It was a complete shock to have Lyndon going to work that morning, kissing me and the kids goodbye, and just not having him come home. It took a very long time for me to come to terms with actually what had happened, and then try and be there for the kids, which, while you're a parent and now you're all of a sudden two parents, trying to parent your grieving kids. And I've never lost a parent, so I don't know how they would feel. It's definitely been hard. Not only that, Lyndon's mum and dad, we are still very, very close as a family, but they lost their eldest child, and they were still there for me and the kids, and his sister and everything else. So it's an ongoing battle, something that you never get over, and something you just keep trying to put one foot in front of the other every single day.
Oh, absolutely. And your, resilience going through something like this, but also, parenting your two boys and getting through this. Oh, sorry, a girl and a boy. Is something to, be very proud of, and something very difficult that's affected you.
Yeah, I think, parenting teenagers at the best of times is difficult, let alone parenting grieving teenagers, and trying to find out, what's normal behaviour just for a teenager and what's, a bit more than that, and everything else. But they're turning out to be very good children. So something I am proud of.
Yeah, it's really great. So after going through such a difficult situation with the loss of your husband, what message do you have for people who work in high-risk industries, who work in confined spaces, or perhaps what lessons or learnings can you give them for them to be aware of?
I guess for them it would be to take safety seriously. A lot of the time people omit certain safety criteria just because it's only going to take one split second, or and that one split second is the difference between life and death. So yeah, that would be probably my first message, and my second one would probably be that safety is your responsibility as well. So it's not just the employer, it's also the individual's responsibility, and that can also play a huge role in their own safety.
You've decided to write a book, or you're in the midst of writing a book at the moment about your experience, both your lived experience and the unfortunate accident that happened to Lyndon. Can you tell us a bit more about the book and the purpose behind it, and what you're hoping to achieve from it?
Yes, so I guess you're the first person I've spoken to about about my book. So my book is becoming closer and closer to fruition every day. It's currently with a publisher at the moment. My book is about my own life and experiences. From when I met Lyndon, I was only 15. So from when I met him to the hardships that we endured along the journey, ultimately until the incident occurred in 2018. But it's a way to teach people about the learnings that have happened to ensure that it doesn't happen to anybody else. So ultimately the book is called Endurance, because it has been one hell of a slog.
Yeah.
and yeah, hopefully the readers will take away bits and pieces and snippets of, things that can potentially help them in their own lives.
And so is there, if you think about the accident that Lyndon was involved in, is there a positive or a positive legacy or something that people can take out of this as a learning or a lesson or something that will help improve safety ongoing?
I think Lyndon would have given anybody the shirt off his back. He was just such a kind person, and we call him our hero. And I think ultimately his legacy is that the safety space will be revamped because of this. And it's because of him that I'm trying to do that.
Yeah. I think also, there's a legacy that trying to help people in their time of need, and he obviously tried to help colleagues in their time of need, is also something that is courageous, but also something there's huge dangers to rescuers and people in that sort of field as well.
Absolutely. I think, it goes to show, when you're at work, you need to look out for your colleagues and everything else. And yes, he was just doing his job, but I know Lyndon, and that would have been more than just a job for him. That was his family, his friends.
Trying to help people.
And
I know that more recently you've been involved in speaking and telling your story within schools, at safety conferences, and within different employers. Can you tell us a bit about what that's been like and what you hope to be able to share by sharing what's this tragic story, but also, I suppose, your resilience in getting through this as well with other people?
I guess for me, it's all about sharing the message as far and as wide as possible, so people understand what it's like on this side of the fence. And I think when I first started speaking, it was really, really difficult. And I have to be honest, I never envisaged myself speaking publicly in any way, shape, or form. But I think now, after speaking at conferences, after speaking at companies and with schools, I think the school has been one of the most rewarding because it's our newcomers. These are the people who are going to be our new contractors and employers and employees in the future. So it's starting down at the bottom line. And I think it's an awesome feeling to know that when they listen to your story, they really take it on board. And I think, they really, it changes their mindset around safety for the better, because they know that this is real. And if I don't take it seriously, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of having someone with lived experience, you've had to endure this really difficult and traumatic events. You've raised 2 children on your own, and you've dealt with Lyndon's passing and that terrible accident. I think it's something that the more that companies are able to hear from someone with lived experience, the more we're able to really share the important messages, and the messages about safety and prevention, the messages in terms of emergency response and rescue, but also how to be able to move on and cope with these tragic circumstances. So I suppose that's something that you're interested in doing more of, to be able to get the word out a bit more. What sort of feedback have you had from doing that thus far?
The feedback has actually been really, really positive. A lot of people can't understand why we do what we do. And I say we because there's so many people around the country who do exactly what I'm doing. But when it's broken down, when you understand why we're doing it, and ultimately it's to ensure that everybody goes home safely. Everybody has someone waiting at home for them, and ultimately that's why. That's my why. When you do get the gratitude messages and everything from the people that you've spoken to, it really does, it warms your heart knowing that they've listened, knowing that you've touched somebody. You'll never know if you can save a life, but you hope that you will.
Yeah. And I think, the legacy that you're helping to build is also by telling this story, which is obviously very difficult for you after what you've been through in your family, but also is really one of helping other people.
Absolutely.
And helping other people to understand the human cost of safety and what we can all learn from it. I know for me, hearing your story is inspiring, but it's also something, that shows me your resilience and your bravery of being able to talk about this, and no doubt will impact thousands of people as they hear your story in the future.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy what I do. I suppose that's the silver lining of that. I've never once thought I can't do this. I've thought I have to do this because this is what I do now. This is my job. This is me giving back to Lyndon in some way and getting his message out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if there was one message that you could leave with people after going through your experience, individually or to organisations, what message would you like people to remember from the experience that you've gone through for you and your family that they can take with them and they can learn from?
I think as an organisation, really it needs to be put back to, from the safety perspective of onboarding, inductions, everything else. If there is something that is a byproduct of that industry, ensure that everybody knows about it. Ongoing training, ongoing continuing professional development is key, is absolutely vital. I think, if you can just do those small things but do them regularly, I think that would make a huge difference in the outcome, making sure that your employees go home in the same mental capacity that they came to work in.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
So if I was to ask you what's your mission now, or if we're here in 5 years' time, what impact do you think you'll be able to have in terms of people in the workplace, employees, organisations? Like, what impact would you like to have over the next 5 or so years?
I want to get to as many businesses as possible to tell my story, to ultimately share my story so they can understand the impact of what it does have, so that they can make the right decisions from the get-go. I want to change, a few things in the legislation side of it. I want to do a lot, and I don't know, how many years it's going to take me, but yeah, I'm definitely going to try.
So even if more than 5, this is something that you're committed to, and I think
Absolutely.
your book Endurance is something that that you've obviously had over this last 7 years, but over the many years to come.
Absolutely, yes.
So what's the best way for people to get in contact with you? If people want you to tell your story to their groups of employees in their organisation, or reach out to you, what's the best way?
They can contact me on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Quinlivan. They can also go to my website, jacquelinequinlivan.com.au, and email me, which all my contact details are on that website as well. They're on LinkedIn. So that would be
Terrific.
great.
All right, great. Well, look, Jackie, when you reached out to me a couple of months ago, you've got an incredible story. And I think it's something that you can make a big difference in the world at. So it was great to be able to talk with you today, to be able to learn some of the lessons from what your family's gone through, but also, I suppose, to see the courage and bravery in terms of you and your family, and particularly you as a mum, coming through that situation, helping many other people. So, yeah, thanks so much. And it was great to have you in today.
Thank you very much.
No worries.